there's always a challenge that has to come with whatever system they choose to do. But you're right in saying the FAA's air traffic control system is by far the busiest, most complex, but at the same time, the safest in the world. So as we approach this, it's got to be a unified approach, a collaborative approach with support of all the stakeholders. Could just put them on a vector out.
Mike McCormick went to teach air traffic management at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University after a career at the FAA as a control tower operator. He says that addressing the outages and making the necessary changes are going to take longer than we would like.
It's like changing the tire on a bus while the bus is rolling down the road. You can't shut down the air traffic control system to upgrade it or to fix it. You need to be able to keep the system up and running while you deploy new technology and you upgrade old equipment. Fixing the FAA's air traffic control system requires a very structured, very formalized approach to what is going to be done, when is it going to be done, how is it going to be integrated into the current system, and then how is it going to be waterfalled or to the rest of the air traffic control facilities across the country. So it's not going to be an overnight, and it's not going to be simple.
We hear various stories about the system now using floppy disks and using copper wires and things. At the same time, I also understand there's been some modernization going on over time. Are we going in the right direction right now, or do we need to change direction?
Absolutely, the Federal Aviation Administration is going in the right direction. They have been engaged in a multi-decade improvement program of the air traffic control system, and they have updated all the controller-facing technology on the displays for the controllers to state-of-the-art to be able to handle not just today's air traffic, but tomorrow's air traffic. What needs to happen now is the support systems. A lot of the backroom equipment that supports the larger system has a definite need for an upgrade. And that's where you hear things like still using floppy disks, still using CDs, because that equipment over time has not been able to be upgraded due to lack of funding. So with improvements to the system, a critical component of it, there has to be reliable, multi-year funding available in order to strategically plan and implement any improvement to the air traffic control system.
Reliable multi-year funding you talk about. That's one of the issues that we've heard about. Congress doesn't necessarily do things in a regular way over a long period of time. Is that a fundamental problem, the way we fund it?
The Federal Aviation Administration is generally funded on an annual basis. They have an operations budget, and then they have a facilities and equipment budget. And that budget is generally only good for one fiscal year, so from October 1st to September 30th. After that, the money disappears.
The need to reform air traffic control is becoming more urgent as outages in the system and the resulting delays become more frequent. The government agency responsible for reporting on government programs and policies has taken a hard look at the existing air traffic control system and found it to be unsustainable.
FAA did this risk assessment to understand of the existing systems, which ones are unsustainable, which ones might be potentially unsustainable, and need investments to modernize them. Many of these systems are aging and face longstanding challenges.
Heather Krauss is the managing director of physical infrastructure at the GAO, which produced a report on the overall state of the air traffic control system in the United States. In March, she testified before Congress about its findings.
So around 17 we found to be somewhat concerning in terms of the timelines that they have, as well as 4 of those systems not having baselines, so not knowing when those systems will be delivered. So important that FAA focuses on, what are the most critical systems, how are they going to mitigate risks in the meantime as they are working through the modernization efforts, and then delivering on those modernization plans.
Modernization is part of the problem, but far from the only part. What about the controllers who run the system? There's general consensus about their being outstanding professionals.
The United States Federal Aviation Administration is short over 3,000 air traffic controllers across the entire system. And it came about not just overnight, but it took decades to reach that level of shortfall. And essentially what happens whenever there is a government shutdown, the FAA cannot hire or train air traffic controllers. This was exacerbated by the pandemic, when over a year the FAA could not hire a single controller and could not train new controllers. That has led to where the system is today, with over 3,000 controllers short across the country. The only way out of that is to hire and train new controllers, and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University is proud to be a part of that initiative. As we enter into agreement with the FAA, we are authorized and certified by the FAA to test our students to the same level that the FAA Academy does, enabling them to be hired directly to FAA traffic control facilities upon graduation. Previously, it would take 1 to 2 years post-graduation for one of our students to enter the controller workforce. Now it can happen within days.
By the time that the air traffic controllers can get a new piece of equipment, it's about 7 or 8 years old. It's not as modern as it should be. It took forever for the air traffic control system to have a GPS system.
Ela Chow was the transportation secretary under President Trump during his first term.
It's a tribute to the men and women of the air traffic control that they can keep the system kind of safe and maintained, with their expertise.
Secretary Chow agrees that the path to overhauling air traffic control in the United States is long, but the problem may be in the very structure of the system.
In 2017, there was an effort under the first Trump administration to reorganize the structure of the air traffic control. And basically, it would take the air traffic control. It's not privatizing it because it's being put into a nonprofit organization, but rather I call it liberating the FAA and the air traffic control, basically liberating the air traffic control from FAA and even more succinctly, the federal government. So that air traffic control, like many others structured like this around the world, would be their own entity. They would have their own nonprofit status. They would have their own board of directors. But more importantly, they would use their own funding of resources and be able to use it for long-term planning.
As you look around the world, has anyone done this? Can we go to school in any other country in the way they've handled this?
Well, Canada is a primary example, Great Britain, Australia. There are many other countries who have taken air traffic control out of the government process and put it separately in its own nonprofit organization. And by doing that, it allows this nonprofit air traffic control system to plan ahead, have control over 100% of its budget, and be able to purchase equipment at a very timely rate and very efficiently as well.
There's been discussion for over 20 years now on what to do about the United States air traffic control system. The U.S. is the only Western nation that still has an air traffic control system fully operated by the central government. All the other Western nations, including our neighbors to the north and the south, and across the Pacific and Atlantic, have transitioned to either a privatized or corporatized air traffic control system. In general, that has worked out very well for those. They ran into a bit of a problem during the pandemic because it's based upon user fees, and that is a portion generally of a ticket tax that would fund it. The FAA's air traffic control system is by far the busiest, most complex, but at the same time, the safest in the world. So as we approach this, it's got to be a unified approach, a collaborative approach with support of all the stakeholders. So you have to have support of passengers, support of aircraft manufacturers, support of airlines, support of the general aviation community, and of course, support of the whole government in order to make a decision on which way to go. Unfortunately, to this point, that has not existed.